Hey everybody, welcome back. I was just finishing up this 500Z a few minutes ago, and I took a video of it. It's probably uploading very soon. Um, and I know I said I was going to do a video about tools and equipment and stuff like that a while ago. I don't know that there's that much interest, but I'll do it anyway. Who the heck cares, right? These videos are about me, not about everybody else. So a friend of mine that's purchasing that amplifier over there, he said to me the other day, we were chatting, and he said, he says, when I see your boxes, he goes, I don't know anything about them electrically. He goes, I don't understand amplifiers. But he said to me, he goes, I like your boxes. He goes, they present really well. He goes, they're nice and neat and clean, and the knobs aren't all over the place, and your switches are straight. And he said, you don't have marks and fingerprints all over the damn thing. And he asked me, he goes, how the heck do you build them? Do you get those cases pre-made? And I said, no. I said, I do the same thing every other guy does, which is I go to ICA Manufacturing and I buy, pre-made aluminum boxes, right? And we're all pulling from the same well. But the only difference is, uh, my assembly of them and the way that I cut holes in them. Now, uh, enormous secret about amplifier building is assuming that you know the mathematics and you're going to build the thing electrically sound. 99%, 90% of amplifier building is metalwork. At least tube amplifier building. 90% of it is cutting and drilling holes and mounting things and cutting more holes and mounting more things. And I'm not saying that you need to make things pretty. I mean, if you've ever been to a key down, you'll see 100,000 watt amplifiers, with knobs left and right, with the titty tuners sticking out the front, and just, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it makes watts, it makes watts, But it's just a personal thing. I want to make something that looks like it came off an assembly line, We're all doing these things one at a time by hand. They're very much handmade things. Even though we're getting the shell from somebody else, we all have to personalize it and build it the way we want to build it with the parts we want. So to do that, I spend most of my time cutting holes and laying things out and trying to make things neat and clean and not getting grease fingerprints all over the boxes. So I was going to talk a little bit about how I do that. Number one, hold on one second. Let me grab it. Forgot. Number one thing I use is green masking tape. Guys, I use more green masking tape than painters do. The first thing I do when I get an amplifier case is I cover that face with green masking tape. I cover the lid with green masking tape. I put green masking tape everywhere because even at a couple bucks a roll, that stuff is cheap. Okay, and when you get a nice greasy fingerprint on a brushed aluminum surface, you will never get it off. Okay, even with acetone and stuff, it'll always lighten it up, but it's there forever. So I try to do my best to mitigate that. So I use green masking tape on everything. And then the other interesting thing is once you have green masking tape on every surface, you can then use a pencil, and a ruler or whatever to lay out your parts. And it pays to have everything in stock at the time of building. You can lay stuff out. You can make more marks and lines all over it. It doesn't matter. Mark it up with a pencil. That's why you have green tape. You can draw on it. You can take it off, put a new piece down. Who cares? Masking tape is your friend. For some reason, I've found the green better to be better than the blue. I just, whatever. That's what I found. I go through a shit ton of razor blades. I always used to try to buy the Stanley ones. I don't know who makes this. Says it's made in USA here on it. It says USA, but I mean, I don't know that it is. I mean, I don't know. I used to buy the Stanley ones. They were thicker, and this was thicker, but I can't find them anymore, at least at Home Depot. And I don't like to order things like razor blades online. So favorite tools. I use, this is a cheap Harbor Freight file. It's perfect for knocking edges off of things when you're cutting a square edge. I use two different Harbor Freight triangle squares. Insanely useful. I put one on each side when I'm making a cross line to lay out a fan hole or something. And then I found these guys on either AliExpress or Temu or something like that. Very handy little tools. This here, these were like a couple bucks. You see what this does here? You can take this, and let's say this was the edge of your amplifier cabinet, right? You could, let's say you want to put something 1.5 inches up from the bottom of the cabinet, or 2 inches, or whatever it is. You set this. See this little notch? You stick your pencil on that. You run it along the edge, whoop, and you can make a straight line. And that's how you can get switches in a straight line, right? So I thought that was handy. And plus, it's just, you wind up with a short ruler to lay things out. You also can use it as a ruler. So this tool, insanely handy and really cheap. This guy here, I don't know why they call it a drawing line ruler, but this little secret, I am in love with this tool because you can lay it on surfaces like that and get a straight line down. You can get a line around a corner. So let's say I want to know, I want this bolt hole location and I want it in line with something over there. I can do stuff like this, like put it over there and then it'll follow the line over there. This little ruler thing, this weird triangle thing for cabinet making or something, you can get them on Amazon. These are awesome. I use them all the time. Calipers. I use calipers. Yes, I use a set of calipers constantly. I know we're not making rocket ships. We're not doing this stuff for the moon landing. I get it. But sometimes when you're laying stuff out and something has to be 1 inch away from something else or 0.293 of an inch, or who knows, it's useful to use that to pick up a bore or a hole of something or measure the outside diameter of something you're trying to mount. Calipers get used all the time. This is just a regular 6-inch. I have a big one. I think that's an 8-inch or a 10-inch or something like that. I don't buy Starretts or Mitutoyos because this is radio and it's not that critical, but close enough is already too good. So I would go on Amazon and get yourself some nice, good, cheap mechanical calipers. Don't buy the digital ones. Don't buy the digital ones because the batteries are going to run out. The cheap digital calipers, I have a background in machining, so I want to tell you this. The cheap digital calipers, their fatal flaw isn't even accuracy, it's battery life. They work great, and they have like buttons for inch and metric, which is insanely useful because a lot of electronics are metric. But anyway, the batteries, you'll put it in the drawer and 3 weeks later it'll be dead. Even if you turn the thing off, it's just drawing power. They don't last. If you buy a Mitutoyo, whatever circuit they have in there, the battery will last like 2 years. But the cheap Chinesium ones, the battery just disappears. So don't waste your time unless you really need to have it. But don't get a digital one. Just get a dial caliper. When you drill a hole, right, no matter what size hole it is, you need to deburr it, okay? And there's 2 tools that I use perpetually to deburr stuff. I use this little thing, and there's 1,000 million copies of this tool online. Go on eBay and buy one. You drill a hole, you just here, I'm trying to simulate a hole here. You drill a hole, you stick it through the hole, and just go like that, and it carves off the outside edge, and it'll deburr. And this is useful to deburr a 4-inch hole, a 1-inch hole, an 1/8-inch hole, doesn't matter. This is great. And then I bought this. This is a Harbor Freight drill thing or whatever. This is a deburring tool, right? You stick this into a hole that you drilled and just go, and it's going to deburr. It does the same thing this does, but on a small scale. This stays like this. I bought this tool to put that bit in and never take it out. And it stays like that, and I grab it. Every time I drill a hole, this comes out and chases the hole. Every single time. So it pays to have deburring tools, and you want to make it go quick and easy, and it's quicker to just buy a stupid drill from Harbor Freight for 20 bucks, and you put a deburring tool on it, and you leave it alone, and it's there forever, and it makes your life easier and faster. And when it comes to amplifier making, faster is the name of the game. So this is another, these are all deburring tools here. I'm going to show you. You can see that. That's one. That's an even bigger one. I have lots of them. So these can go in a regular drill, but that one I use the most. Okay, speaking of drills, I know it's really tempting to buy the drill bit kit at Harbor Freight that goes on sale. That's got every drill bit on earth for $7 or whatever every time it comes up. I promise you, you're only going to piss yourself off, because those Harbor Freight drill bits are soft Chinesium, and they will spin in your drill chuck and gouge up, and they don't roll straight. They're usually wobbly. They usually go boom, boom, boom. They're not even straight when you get them, and the tops are not ground well. They'll catch in holes, pull you into a panel. They're horrible. I've spent way too much time resharpening these things, and trying to make cheap drill bits work, and it's not worth it. So buy some good drill bits. Now, these are 6-inch long drill bits. I buy drill bits both in 6-inch long and in what they call jobber length, which would be like that, okay? And there are times where your drill, because of the body of the drill, it just kind of gets in the way of a panel inside an amplifier or something. So having a longer drill bit can keep you further away from it, and it's actually easier to work with. So don't be afraid of long drill bits, guys. I use them all the time. Another little trick is when you drill panels, thin sheet metal, you don't always need to use a drill bit. Believe it or not, a step drill bit is better. Okay, this is a metric step drill. You see that? A little known thing, especially in radio for some reason, but most electronics are in millimeters. They measure diodes in millimeters. They measure leads and connectors. Everything is metric. There's nothing in standard. We still use standard because we're crazy, but the whole rest of the world went to metric a long time ago. And like even switches and stuff, like a 1/2-inch switch isn't really a 1/2-inch diameter. It's like 12.5 millimeters or 12.7, depending on the switch. So get yourself metric drills and step drills. This will save you. This, I have easily, 7, maybe 6 center punches, automatic center punches. Every single hole that gets drilled in an amplifier gets marked on the green tape. And this guy, I give it a ka-chunk and, like that. And it center punches the hole. If you can get a strong American-made one, do it. If you can get the Starrett or whatever other brand you can find, or an old U.S. General Tool Company, those are very old, not Harbor Freight, U.S. General. Those are American-made. The tips are harder, they're sharper, and they hit like a hammer. These are the ones that you get on sale at Harbor Freight, and they suck. And the problem with them is that they do work initially. After you punch a couple hundred holes, the parts inside, I actually wound up fixing them. I got tired of rebuying these things. They wear out, and they no longer have a square edge. So when you go to punch it, the anvil thing doesn't like nip off the plunger, and it just doesn't click. You'll sit there and go push, 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 and it won't click. So these guys, I use this one, but I have some big ones that really hit like a train, and they're American made. These cheap import ones, again, if you're on the budget, that's fine, but try to get yourself a center punch. This is really important for laying out holes. It prevents your drill bit from wandering and walking all over the panel. Do that. Okay. Next thing. I don't think I'm giving any secrets away, but I mean, let's face it. Maybe you're new to metalworking. Maybe you don't have a background playing around with cars, and I don't know. Maybe this will help. This is a simple dowel. Okay, and I've got a whole bunch of them, different diameters, right? One of the things you're going to do in amplifier building is make forms, or you're going to need to make things around a form, like tank coils, little input networks, all types of things. There's always coils of wire, right? So, I buy things that are round and I mark them for what I want them for. Like this is 1.5-inch PVC. This is a 1/2-inch dowel, so I know it's a 1/2-inch form, and I just label it. Just cut it to 6 inches. You could throw this in your you could throw it in your toolbox, and you always have a 3/4-inch form, or a 1/2-inch form, or a 7/8 form, or a 1-inch form. Just make yourself some forms. Now, if you've never seen one of these, they call these things Christmas trees or component lead benders. You're supposed to stick a component, for whatever size component it is. You stick it in the hole, and you can bend the leads, or to whatever width you need, to stick it in a PC board, and it makes a consistent. You saw I just destroyed it, but that's what these are for. These are component lead benders. You see, you just go like that, and go boop, and you have a nice uniform bend. So handy. You can get those anywhere. Other tools that I absolutely love. So I am very picky about that. I am very picky about precision wire cutters. I need them to be spring-loaded, because when you're doing this thousands of times in an amplifier build, or hundreds of times, you're going to fatigue your hand adjusting your grip and then opening up the pliers and then going back for the next pull. Spring loading them, this is everything. Now these are actually Swiss made. This is, what brand is this here? Lindstrom. These are the Italian ones. I have a pair of Swiss ones, but they're really hard, and there is no damage to those jaws. And I've cut solid number 10 wire and occasionally solid number 8. Not supposed to do that, but these will chew through a car door, and so sharp they'll cut your finger still. These are about $65 for this pair of nippers, and I have 2, and worth every penny. I grab them constantly. I was constantly buying the cheap ones from Home Depot with the orange handles, and they're good. Problems with them: the grips will slide off when you're working with it, and then the tool falls out of your hand. They don't stay sharp, and they break. You'll be in the middle of a cut, and the jaw will snap off because they're Chinesium. After you buy 3 or 4 of them, and you're looking at $8, $9 a piece for those, the $65 nippers make sense. I use this cheap pair of Chinese, I think they're Chinese. What's it? Oh, Husky. Precision, no serrations, really thin needle nose pliers. Use them all the time. They're spring loaded, but they're getting old and they're getting sticky. They're kind of like staying together. See, I use these all the time, and the finish is worn off them. I mean, they used to be black, but I use these all the time. Another tool, not for the faint of heart. This guy. This is a close quarters, extended reach needle nose plier. Look at these. So when you have regular needle nose pliers, when you open them up, the arms are out here and they get wider and wider and wider, and you can't get into a small space. The arms are reversed. So when you open it up, it actually gets narrower. Do you see that? It's really slick, and that lets you get in anywhere. And they're good for automotive stuff too. But these are like 40 something dollars, I think, but like they're worth every penny. I mean, these are handy. The last little, another favorite tool, this here. So I'm going to tell you a story about this. My buddy, who died, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, he died last year, and he was an auto body guy, and he's a radio guy, and he gave this to me. He gave it to me with a charger and 2 batteries right from the Snap-on truck. And I said to him, I said, I think it's cool. I said, but I have screwdrivers, and I need to be very careful putting these little screws in the cases. And he goes, use this, trust me. And so he gave this thing to me, and I used it, and I loved it. And I took a hiatus from radio. So I was gone. I didn't do anything for like, I don't know, 10 plus years, 12 years, something like that. And I kept the 1 battery in this tool laying on the bench like that. It sat here on the bench for over 10 years, uncharged. And I pulled it out, and I pulled the trigger, and the goddamn thing ran. The battery wasn't dead. Sat on the bench for 10 years, never charged it. The other battery was on charge underneath the bench on the charger perpetually for 10 years. And I went, oh my God, I better switch batteries. And so I swap them in and out, but both of them hold a charge. They've never failed me. I didn't seem to overcharge it. Nothing's ever broken on this thing. And I use it constantly. I don't know if you can still get this. I looked at the Harbor Freight version of this, and it's bigger, which I don't want it because this is smaller. I want a smaller, lighter tool. It has the quick bit fittings that, like an impact driver, but it's got a clutch. You see, it's got the clutch settings over here, and I keep it on like 2. The ones from Harbor Freight, some of them have the clutch, some don't. The new Snap-on ones don't have the clutch. So maybe they still make this. I don't know. I don't know any tool guys anymore. But this one, man, if you can get your hands on these guys, this thing's built like a tank. I love it. I absolutely love this tool. 7.2 volts. Look at that. It's not even there's nothing fancy about it, but this tool, and you don't have to switch. The other thing I like about it is there's no reverse button, right? So like on the cheap Harbor Freight ones, you have to stop, change your grip, hit the reverse button, and then go back to work. This guy, it's just, forward, back. I mean, how can you beat that? This is intuitive. Great tool if you can afford to buy that. So that's it. I just thought I'd show some of those tools. The other thing I use all the time, and I mean all the time, guys, is I use a digital fluke meter all the time, and I use my Simpson all the time. And this is my second Simpson. My original one's in the other room, and it broke, and I don't know how to fix it. So a buddy of mine sold me this one, and it works perfectly. I'm very happy. I switched, when the other one broke, to a triplet, which I do like. I like the triplet meter. I like the Simpson better. I think because the scale, even though the meter looks smaller, I think the numbers on it are bigger. So I find this a little easier to use than this. This is just simpler for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just got to get used to this guy. But I use them both, but the Simpson I use a lot. So you're going to probably ask, how come in 2024 anybody still wants to use, a mechanical meter as opposed to a digital? And there's a very simple reason. It's because the analog meter movement places a very small load on the circuit, and it gives you a better reading, especially when you're testing things like transistors, like when you're checking a transistor if it's good or not, or checking a diode. It can be better than a multimeter. A multimeter can give you, like these digital ones can sometimes give you a false reading. The other thing is when you are checking the circuit, like if you put a digital multimeter sometimes, you can read they're so sensitive, they'll read like an AC signal, something where there really isn't one. It could just be picking up noise from somewhere. The Simpson won't do that. You know, if you put it on DC, you put it on AC, it's going to read one or the other. These are a little more susceptible to noise in the environment, and especially with RF around. I mean, I use it every day. Don't get me wrong, but the Simpson definitely has its place. They're great meters. They still make this meter, you know. I don't know if you guys are aware of Simpsons, but they've been making this same meter, you know, a lot longer than I've been alive. And I think they're like $600 or $800 or something like that. Maybe they're $600 or $400. They're really expensive, but they still make them because, you know, when you have a military contract, when the military or the government makes, let's say, a training manual, you know, to fix something, to fix a piece of radio equipment, and they specify the use of this, and they train their people on how to use it. This meter has to stay in production for them forever to keep that manual going, to keep that procedure verified, you know? So that's why companies like this, you'll see things that look old, but they're still being made. So, you know, good meters, guys. And they don't go for much used. You can get these things for $50 used. Just watch out for corrosion and stuff inside of them. But these are good meters. So there's a reason why you always see them on my bench, you know. So I don't know. Hopefully I want that to conclude my video. But hopefully you guys learned a little something about the tools I use. And, you know, I could do it again. I could make another video and go over some of the other stuff, like my soldering irons and stuff like that. But I don't know. Hope it wasn't too boring a video, guys. Thanks for watching.